These 3 supplements right here are the only 3 supplements that matter. Now, I'm not talking about the brands. I'm not even talking about these specific products. I'm talking about creatine, whey protein, and caffeine. Now, if you want to add scotch, I'm completely fine adding that as a 4th supplement. However, that's not 100% necessary. Alright, before I go any further in this discussion, I do want to mention there are more than these 3 supplements that I recommend. I also recommend fish oil. I also recommend a multivitamin to cover all your micronutrient bases. I recommend vitamin D because a lot of us don't get enough vitamin D through our diet, or we don't spend enough time outdoors getting the natural sunlight. Magnesium for kind of the same reason. We don't get a lot of magnesium. Magnesium and vitamin D are the most 2 common deficiencies of micronutrients, minerals in particular, for developed nations. And they work hand in hand. And we don't get a lot of them from our diet. And a multivitamin can't handle or can't cover vitamin D and magnesium in the types or amounts that we need. They're micronutrients, meaning we need them in smaller amounts, but you still need quite a bit of vitamin D and magnesium. So there's fish oil, vitamin D, magnesium, a multivitamin. What else do I recommend? BCAAs. Now that's a tricky one because in my opinion, if you're hitting your daily protein intake, so we'll say around a gram per pound of body weight, give or take a little bit depending on your situation, but 1 gram per pound of body weight can cover the widest range of people. For most people, that's going to be good. Now, if you're hitting that, how beneficial is BCAAs? In my opinion, not that much. If you have the extra money, does it hurt to take BCAAs? No, it's not going to hurt. It may even be beneficial. And one of the reasons why I do like a lot of BCAA products is because they throw in some other ingredients that may be underdosed in, we'll say a pre-workout, like something like citrulline malate. It's very commonly underdosed in pre-workouts. So if your BCAA product also includes citrulline malate, when you combine those, so you have a pre-workout before you work out and then sip on some BCAAs during training, you might actually hit the studied dose of citrulline malate. Same thing for something like beta-alanine. You do see that very common as well. So that's something that's kind of on the fence. I don't necessarily recommend it to everybody, but if you have the extra money, it may be beneficial. Other than that, I don't really recommend that much. I mean, a fat burner does have some benefit to appetite suppressant. I mean, it can be an appetite suppressant, but as far as really fat burning, it's not gonna help you all that much. So there's really limited supplements that are going to make a big difference. Now, with all that being said, like I said, fish oil, vitamin D, a multivitamin, magnesium, we'll even say BCAA, those are like honorable mention. The three supplements that I recommend to everybody are whey protein, creatine, and caffeine. Now, caffeine is the reason I add it is because caffeine I have found to help most people. Most people, you take caffeine, you are going to notice a difference that day when you're training. And that's what I'm really talking about with these 3 supplements. They're going to make the biggest difference. If you can only spend your money on 3 supplements, you should be buying a whey protein, a creatine, and some form of caffeine. So let's start with creatine. I'm just using the Cellucor creatine monohydrate, but this could be any form of creatine monohydrate. Still, the best form of creatine. There hasn't been a study, at least that I'm aware of, to show any other form of creatine to outperform creatine monohydrate, and it just so happens to be the cheapest form. So I would just go with the creatine monohydrate. Now, we know that it helps anaerobic activities, so sprinting, jumping, and lifting. It's naturally found in foods like steak. It's naturally found in the body in muscle, and it has a ton of benefits. I look at creatine as almost like the multivitamin for muscle, meaning you don't have to cycle it. you should take it every day, just 5 grams per day. Originally, it was thought that you needed to load it, which loading does saturate the muscle faster. So let's say you've never taken creatine in your life, you buy some creatine monohydrate, you read the label, it says to take 20 grams per day for 5 days straight. Now, mind you, you're gonna go through a ton of creatine. You're gonna probably go through a quarter of the container the first week, and you will get your muscle saturated 100% with creatine within that first week. However, the other option is to just take 3 to 5 grams per day, and in about 20 days, you'll have your muscles completely saturated. But you would use only a small fraction of the product, and a lot of the bloating and water retention that is associated with creatine is associated with that loading phase. So you do not need to do it. Don't load it. Just take 3 to 5 grams per day, every day. It also does not matter when you take it. You can take it pre-workout, post-workout, during training, at night, in the morning. Just take it every day. It does not matter the time. However, I will say, some people do get a little bit of GI distress from creatine. So if that is you, I wouldn't take it pre-training. I would try to take it, at night or in the morning, away from your workout or post-workout. Does not matter. The biggest thing with creatine, and this is even for myself, is remembering to take it, because I forget. And I have been trying to be extra diligent about taking it now, so I normally just throw it in my pre-workout. It doesn't cause me any GI problems, so I just throw it in there, so I remember. Now let's move on to whey protein. Why do I recommend whey protein? Alright, first question. Do you need to take protein to build muscle? No, you do not. You do not need to take protein at all. You do not need to take whey protein. However, you're going to have to hit your daily protein intake, like we talked about earlier, about 1 gram per pound of body weight. And that, if you're a big meat eater, you eat eggs for breakfast, steak, tuna, chicken, fish. If you eat a lot of meals like that, you'll probably have no problem hitting 1 gram per pound of body weight, so you wouldn't need protein. However, the convenience factor alone is why I include it into the big 3 here. And trust me, I've worked with hundreds, probably approaching 1,000 clients since I've started Hunt Fitness, and probably 95% of them who've been successful have taken whey protein. Maybe even 98% of the people that have been successful. And the reason is because even if you don't take it every day, even if it's not part of your daily routine, there's going to be days you're on the road, you're traveling, you're busy, you don't feel like cooking, you didn't go get groceries. There's going to be days where you need to have a protein shake or 2 to hit your daily protein intakes. Is whole food better? A lot of people say whole food's better. Well, technically, it's not better. I think whey protein is probably the best protein if you had to rank them. It's highest on bioavailability, it's highest in leucine, or at least one of the highest in leucine, which is the main amino acid that activates muscle protein synthesis. So when people say whole food's better, maybe, well, it definitely is from a fullness factor. You're gonna be more full eating a piece of chicken than you are, or a steak than you are whey protein. Now, some of that has to do with the calorie density of the food. Steak, chicken also has some fat in it. Whey protein, minimal. So that'll be a factor. But the main thing is you're going to have days where you're going to need to have a shake. You're going to need to have, some type of supplement to your protein intake in order to hit your daily protein goals. So from a whey protein standpoint, the way I look at it is what's most beneficial? Hitting your protein targets 100% of the time, and some of those times include whey protein, or not taking whey protein, and those days where you're busy or traveling or didn't go get groceries, you just miss your protein intake. What's more beneficial? Having whey protein on tap, so you're always hitting your protein intake. So creatine, whey protein. Now caffeine, last one. If there's any type of discrepancy here, I use G Fuel. Obviously, I'm sponsored by Gamma Labs. I love G Fuel, but this could have been, I could have used a Monster. I also love Monster energy drinks. This could have been caffeine tablets. This could have been any of the other hundreds of pre-workouts I have in my supplement container or cabinet. And caffeine. Now, out of these 3, I would rank protein 1, creatine 2, caffeine 3. But I add these in the big 3 because these are the only 3 supplements I think matter the most. Now, the reason I like caffeine is because caffeine has been shown to increase performance. Now, it's obviously going to be different for everybody. And some people obviously can train great without caffeine. I'm not saying you need it 100%. I'm just saying if you do want to buy supplements, I think these are the 3 that are going to provide the most bang for your buck. And at the end of the day, with caffeine, your progress is 100% directed to your consistency with training and nutrition. That's really why whey protein is on, in the big 3 here, because it leads to better consistency with your nutrition. Caffeine can lead to better consistency with your training. Just like there's going to be days where it's hard to hit your protein intake, there's going to be days, if you've been training long enough, you know this, there's going to be days where you're feeling tired. You're like, man, I do not feel like lifting after a hard day's work or a long day or a stressful day. Or, man, I do not have the energy. I do not feel like going in there. That's where this little guy comes in. Take a scoop of pre-workout, take a scoop or 2 of G Fuel. You feel that caffeine flowing through you, and everything changes. You get that burst of energy. You're ready to go now. That, my friends, is what caffeine can provide. That boost of energy to make sure you hit the gym that day, on those days when you're tired. These are the big 3. If you're going to buy supplements, whey protein, creatine, caffeine. Biggest bang for your buck.